Greetings, world. It has been a while. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to come on here and have a ramble so I don't neglect this channel. You know what I mean? Preventative maintenance and everything like that. Um, yeah, it's really interesting. I just kind of wanted to throw some thoughts at the wall, I guess. It's really interesting that in the past couple of months, there's been some very tremendous energetic shifts. Um, and it has been true what a lot of other channels have been saying that there have been pretty tremendous energetic shifts. And I've been receiving a lot of good fortune, a lot of windfalls of success, and things have been going very well for me. But it kind of made me realize something. It really made me reflect on the nature of Saturn a little bit. In fact, I make this video as the moon applies to conjoin that retrograde Saturn in Pisces. Um, it made me reflect a lot on what the chosen one experience is like, the relationship of Saturn to the chosen one experience, and the relationship of negative experience to wisdom and profound insight. Because truth be told, I haven't made a video in a couple of months because I just really haven't felt like I've had anything that especially inspirational or groundbreaking to say. I'm kind of partial to the lyrics from that Talking Heads song, Psycho Killer. It's like, say something once, why say it again? I want to see, how's it, how exactly does that lyric go? The Talking Heads. I love that song. Talking Heads, Psycho Killer. Can't seem to face up to the facts. Yeah. You start a conversation, you can't even finish it. You're talking a lot, but you're not saying anything. When I have nothing to say, my lips are sealed. Say something once, why say it again? Facts, though, you know. So I never want to be a channel that just, comes back and plays the hits. But I do feel like I have enough novelty, or at least I can remix the things I've said enough to make it at least kind of new for this video. But yeah, for the past couple of months, a lot of insights have not really been coming to me as fast and as hard as they were during the times where I was privy to very negative, unlucky experiences. Um, those are when the downloads and insights came in most heavily, and particularly very shortly thereafter, having very traumatic negative experiences. To be completely honest, um, and it really is so Saturn, isn't it? Because Saturn deals with all these very negative, unpleasant things. But Saturn also traditionally is viewed to be this planet of profound insights, great wisdom, deep, penetrating, esoteric knowledge, knowledge of secret sciences. But also, it made me think a lot about, once again, that duality I speak all the time about the opposition of the Sun and Saturn. Because my main magical practice that I've been pretty consistent with has been it's the same ritual that I have discussed a couple of times on this channel. And in fact, I did a reading of it. I believe it's called Blessing of the Sun on this channel. And pretty much in this ritual, this Greek magical papyri ritual, you're calling upon the spirits of the Dodecaoros, which is the Cairo zodiac. This is the forgotten Egyptian zodiac of the sun. So this is not a zodiac that's comprehensive and contains other planets, really. This is a zodiac particularly related to the sun's progression through the hours. So each hour had a particular animal that was corresponding with it. And in this um, consecration of all things ritual in the Greek magical papyri, which is a solar ritual, and you're calling upon blessings from Helios and the solar spirits of the Dodeca Oros, each of these particular zodiacal spirits, animal spirits, grant certain boons. So I just want to do a quick read through of that. In the first hour, you have the form of a cat. Your name is Pharokunith. Give glory and grace to this phylactery. Now, as I read, we're thinking about how all of these animals are solar, but they're different manifestations of solar powers that are granted according to the hours. In fact, this very same Dodeca Oros is spoken of in Iamblichus Dei Mysteries. So we got Pharokunith the cat is giving glory and grace. In the second hour, you have the form of a dog. Your name is Sufi. Give strength and honor to this phylactery, to this stone. In the third hour, you have the form of a snake. Your name is Amekrane Becheo Thuth. Give honor to the god. In the fourth hour, you have the form of a scarab. Your name is Senthenips. Join in supporting this phylactery in this night for the reason that it is initiated. In the fifth hour, you have the form of a donkey. Your name is Enfankuf. Give strength and courage and capability to the god. In the sixth hour, you have the form of a lion. Your name is Vai Solvai, ruler of time. Give advantage to this phylactery and beautiful victory. In the seventh hour, you have the form of a goat. Your name is Umethoth. Give allure to this signet ring. In the eighth hour, you have the form of a bull. Your name is Diatife, who becomes light-giving. Fulfill it all through the use of this stone. In the ninth hour, you have the form of a falcon. Your name is Pheus Fouth, the lotus brought forth out of the abyss. Give advantage and good opportunity to this phylactery. In the 10th hour, you have the form of a baboon. Your name is Vesviki. And then it lists no advantages. In the 11th hour, you have the form of an ibis. Your name is Murof. Fulfill the great phylactery for the good of blank from today unto all time. In the 12th hour, you have the form of a crocodile. Your name is Aerthui. And again, it doesn't list any benefits. So sort of the 10th and the 12th, a lot of these kind of have correlated correlations with the actual proper tropical zodiac. So we could see maybe like Capricorn and Pisces. Maybe they viewed this 10th and 12th as being kind of unlucky. Saturn's associated with Capricorn, and maybe it's sort of like a tenuous association with Pisces with the 12th house, maybe. But for whatever reason, the 10th and the 12th animals, we call upon them for the sake of being proper, but we do not speak of their effects. But I guess I bring that all up to point out these are all overwhelmingly positive sort of qualities, right? You have glory and grace, strength, honor. The Senthenips is sort of bringing the enduring effects of the sun into the night, because if you think about it, Senthenips, this is the fourth animal. It corresponds with Cancer, ruled by the moon, right? And the moon receives the light of the sun. The moon is our sun of the night. It receives the light of the sun and it brings it to us during the nighttime. So Senthenips is said to support the phylactery in this night. Once again, strength and courage with Enfankuf. The ruler of time, Bai Solvai, ruler of time. Really, that's kind of important because of all the planets, the sun is by far the most stabilizing from a time standpoint, right? Because the sun, its journey through the houses is the same every day, basically, if you think about it. At sunrise, the sun is on the ascendant, period. There's no variance. A planet like Mars could be anywhere, you know? A planet like Mars could be anywhere at any time. It all depends on where it is. Just because the sun rises doesn't mean that Mars is on the ascendant. It could be anywhere in any house. The sun during midday, it's on the midheaven, of course. It's right above you in the heavens. It's noon, right? That's where the sun is. And in the evening, during the sunset, well, it's the sun is setting. It's on the descendant, right? We know exactly where the sun is, and every planet revolves around the sun. So the sun really is sort of, ironically, the big player as it comes to time. Maybe not so much Saturn as you might expect. The sun really traditionally was kind of associated with the logos because it is such an organizing power, right? More than anything, it's an organizing power. It makes me think a lot about how much of a deficiency of organization there is without a leader, right? In a kingdom without a king, or some other sort of head figure, it would kind of devolve a little bit into a good amount of chaos, I should say, which is why most political systems have really one, in some form, one major player as a political figure, right? Even in the United States, where we have this sort of tripartite system of executive branch, legislative branch, and judicial, still we have this major player in the form of the president. Pretty much every power structure uh, has something like this main leader, and it is an organizing force. And this is very much the same with the sun. But we're talking about grace. We're talking about being light giving, like Daiatife, the bull, being light giving, being the Lord of time, organization, making everything make sense, giving meaning. Right. These are some of the correspondences I'd say with the lot of spirit. Um, yeah, the sun is this force of meaning. Meaning and organization. It kind of sounds familiar. It kind of sounds like that logos spermaticos. So we can kind of see why traditionally we had this association of the sun with the logos. But grace, power, strength, honor, advantage, capability, good opportunity, you know. Um, these are all things associated with the sun, and you can kind of see a lot of the opposite qualities in Saturn. One of the descriptions of Saturn in the Picatrix is that it says, I believe it's the Picatrix, or it might be Vedius Balance. Um, Basically, it says that Saturn causes falls on your face. So Saturn causes disgrace and causes bad reputation, to be sort of a peasant, to be an outcast, uh, brings you to a sunken place. It makes things fall apart. In fact, uh, that's one of the most meaningful way to engage with Saturn is to glean the wisdom derived from things falling apart. Saturn is associated with powerlessness. Think about where Saturn has its planetary joy. It has its planetary joy in the 12th house. It delights in prisons. So it's about not having opportunities. Saturn is about limitation and having opportunities taken away from you, not being able to see opportunities. I remember there was this, I think it might have been BBC, where they did a little, not sure what to call it. I wouldn't call it an expose, but a little feature on luck. And they monitored people who had self-reported good luck versus people who self-reported bad luck. And basically, they would leave little things out for people to find them, right? So they would leave like a dollar bill in the same place. And very interestingly, the people who self-reported good luck would see the dollar bill on the ground or the $20 bill on the ground, they pick it up. Whereas the people with so-called bad luck, they wouldn't even see the same dollar bill that was placed in the same place. So it really goes to show that a really big part of Saturn may not necessarily be um, having opportunities limited, but limitations of vision, right? If the sun is what makes things visible, Saturn is what makes things very often invisible. Opportunities become invisible, and that's why those people that self-report bad luck's a very Saturn sort of thing. They couldn't see that money lying on the ground. The money was there, indisputably it was there, but they could not see it. Um, so we had associations with courage, right? We were talking about the sun. Again, it's the opposite with Saturn. Saturn produces fear. Saturn is fear producing. It produces cowardice. Um, Strength. That's a solar thing. But Saturn brings you into a place of weakness. I remember in the past 2 months, I worked briefly as a maintenance technician at um, an assisted living place. Yeah, an assisted living place. And basically, when you got to go in to do a work order, these are people that have lost their faculties. I think I might riff on this a little bit. It was a little crazy. Like the place that I was appointed to look after, sort of groundskeeping and stuff like that, was um, memory care section. So you think these are people with just bad memory? This is really like a one flew over the cuckoo's nest type fucking place. Like there's, I remember I'm walking with my coworker, and this one old lady just straight. She's sitting outside on the bench. She just cold takes her shirt off, and she's got no bra. And she's letting her fucking tits hang out, and she's gone, bro. You could see there's not a thought behind those eyes. And fucking my coworker has to call it in. It's like, yep, Marilyn outside the mess hall, tits are out. There's another lady who all she does, I'm not sure if this lady can talk or if she would just like growl like a raccoon or something. I have never heard her talk, but she looks like she would growl like a raccoon. All she does is she just jogs around for presumably like 16 hours a day. And if there's anything you leave outside your door, she will steal it. If anyone leaves their door open, she will just break and enter. And she just slow jogs for 16 hours a day. Yeah, crazy place to work. I was hearing things like, "Oh, this guy's a hitter," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Oh yeah, if you go in and to do a work order in there, he's gonna try to attack you." Okay, well, I'm gonna start investigating working other places. Not to mention that they had me fucking like pulling weeds for 8 hours. Like this is not what the fuck I signed up for. So they turned me into a fucking landscaper. But one of the things that really struck me was the guy who was supposed to be a hitter. I go in to his place for something, and um, apparently he had steeply and rapidly declined. So this is a guy who, you know what I mean. He can barely talk. He's laying there in his underwear. Presumably doesn't do anything all day. He just lays there in his underwear because you know what I mean. His health just took a fucking nosedive. And it's this old guy. He's kind of fat, kind of bald, and you're talking to him, and you could tell that he's not really all there. And it's just this scene of like utter fragility and weakness and powerlessness. The powerlessness that comes over people in their old age, which again Saturn rules. It was such a Saturnian scene, and it was just the absolute opposite of being in a position of power, just being utterly powerless, not having the opportunities that young people have. So again, limitation. Um, yeah. So in every regard, Saturn is very disempowering in all these ways, and yet I would not go to a young person for wisdom. That's not to say that young people can't have wisdom. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and a lot of young people are wise beyond their years. But my first choice would not be to go to a young person. My first choice would be to go to an older person. It is that seniority that only Saturn provides, and Saturn provides this wisdom. So even Saturnian seasons of your life can be the seasons that provide you with the greatest wisdom. You know, a lot of what came out of me on this channel, I'm even still surprised to this day that those words came out of my lips. But they came out of my lips in such a dark period of my life. And these past 2 months, I wouldn't say I've necessarily had any sort of breakthroughs, but things have come together in such a cohesive and organized and clear way. So it's not like big epiphanies or anything, but it's like all the right opportunities have come to me, and I've just had moments of realization as to how I've been doing things wrong all along, and that there's a really smart, cohesive, encompassing way to do things. And yeah, these past couple of months have been really amazing. And I feel like there's been an energetic shift that's brought me into a very positive space. But funny enough, the epiphanies have slowed down to a screeching halt. But I'm okay with that because um, that's one of the things that I realized over these past couple of months is it's cool that you can have all of these profound insights, but um, I feel like it is a problem. I think I talked about this in my completion video about I'm starting to get a little annoyed at YouTube channels that they just constantly put out video after video talking about like you've been looking at this all wrong, you've been looking at that all wrong. Here's this mind blowing thing. Here's my description of I am consciousness, and it's just video after video after video, and I'm just thinking to myself, um, it's cool that you're making all these videos, but are you and are your viewers taking practical action on any of this information on a daily basis? So that's a negative sort of archetype I've discovered. I talked about it. It's kind of like I talked about my pathological Mercury video. Um, and in fact, I think I attracted a couple people to this channel who really embody exactly what I'm talking about. I attracted a particular viewer who most certainly had some form of narcissistic personality disorder. But aside from like her extreme pretentiousness, the thing that I think struck me most about her was this super rapid, sort of manic, desperate desire to jump from mind blowing realization to mind blowing realization. And I reflected on it a little bit and I thought to myself, there's no way that you're really taking practical action on any of this information on a daily basis. You're kind of just being a dopamine whore going from place to place, looking for the new mind blowing epiphany. You're not making any real consistent progress. You're not, you don't really have daily habits. You're just, and this is a problem that a lot of people I've seen. It's just, you're just info porn junkies, pretty much. And I think it's a big part of what made me slow down this channel a lot is I never want to be the kind of person that's like, look at this guy who's got all the answers, but uh, he doesn't consistently practice productive um, habits of self improvement every day. You don't have consistent goals that you work towards. You're just somebody who goes from mind blowing epiphany to mind blowing epiphany. Recently, I found it kind of nauseating. Um, And I think another thing too is like, um, I moved a little bit more towards text because I realized that there is something just kind of inherently sort of pompous and pretentious about making one of these YouTube videos, almost like getting on a soapbox and like, listen to me, the grand guru. And I think that may be true even in text form, but there is something like I've come to find to be like a little bit particularly nauseating about like actually getting. It's another reason that I stopped doing camera videos too. There's something about, I don't know, just for me, like people putting their face as the thumbnail and just putting their face right up on the camera and then like proselytizing at you. I've come to find it to be a little bit nauseating, and there is sort of like just kind of like pretentious aura coming off of it. It's like all these people on YouTube that are like preaching at you. It's like, who are these fucking people? You know, what are you, like a guru? What are you, like somebody who's like studied this shit for years? Very often it's people that they read a couple articles on the internet and now they're like, I'm gonna go on YouTube and become like an expert and I'm gonna fucking like preach at people about things that they just fucking learned. You know, it is just like inherently nauseating. I think part of what made me start thinking this way is like, um, one thing the universe will do is, if you're moving in error, I found God has a way of putting people in your life to reflect sort of your deficiencies. So I had one viewer, the viewer I was previously talking about, who was just so intensely pompous, narcissistic, pretentious, really pretentious. Like I can't, I really can't imagine the level of like delusional narcissism of like coming to somebody who has been practicing a lot of these esoteric arts for years and has like formally studied an apprentice under an actual teacher, and this girl just comes in and she's like, okay, let me teach you how to do it. Like, what do you mean teach me how to do it? You just got here. You don't know any of the things that you're fucking talking about. She tried to make an algal talisman, and she didn't have like even the faintest idea of what she was doing. And I had to tell her like, you are aware that this talisman won't do anything, right? But it's like just the arrogance of just coming in there and being like, okay, well, let me show you how to do it. Just, it was so overwhelmingly delusional, pretentious, sad, and narcissistic that it made me think about what is it, what are the frequencies that I'm putting out that would attract, that would excite somebody like that to even want to participate in my little community, right? And it made me think, is like, maybe this is that maybe it is the universe holding up a mirror. Maybe not a mirror. I definitely don't think I'm that fucking bad, but maybe a mirror of like, it's kind of like you remember the Ghost of Christmas Future. It's like this with Scrooge. This could be you. Um, but yeah, I think that's a big reason why I stepped away from doing a lot of videos too. I leave at the very least just slowing it down. You know, it feels a little bit pretentious, and it definitely feels a lot better to sink a lot of time into practice and research and just make one really high quality video, maybe every couple of months or so. The kind of people who are just pumping out video after video after video, it really kind of starts to speak to me of like, um, first of all, you're a new jack. You haven't been doing this long enough to, you know, style yourself as an expert. And two, I doubt that you're putting in the daily work, all the things that you should be doing to be achieving like self improvement like that, you know? Um, so yeah, that was a thought I was having. Um, I guess there's a couple things I wanted to talk about in this video. The title of the video is Motion, and I guess there's a couple of things that sort of tie in together like that. And that is kind of like a funny way that my videos come together too. It's sort of like in an unconscious sort of way, or in a divine inspiration sort of way. And that sort of divine inspiration doesn't really come forward in like sort of like a linear logic style. Um, so it made me think about how a lot of lyricists make their lyrics. One of my favorite bands, Motion City Soundtrack, their singer Justin Courtney Pierre talked about um, how he likes to write his lyrics. And basically, he's, I think this is a dirty secret about a lot of lyricists, is that he was saying that he likes to leave things open ended enough that the actual listener can derive a particular meaning from the lyrics. So it's not necessarily about this very straightforward sort of direct communication of a message. The way Justin Courtney Pierre describes it is that he likes to have at least a couple of possible narrative threads that he himself can make sense of his own song. But generally speaking, he likes to leave things open ended enough that the listener can sort of derive whatever it is they want to derive from it. And just the whole process kind of makes me think about the artistic process of writing lyrics. You know, sometimes I'll be writing lyrics out, and something just kind of comes out of me out of nowhere. And I'm like, I'm not really sure how this fits into things. But then from a couple of angles, like you yourself, the person who wrote the lyric, sometimes they're like when you're trailing off, getting ready to go to sleep, and you're just writing and you're trailing off to sleep, you write some stuff down, and you come back to it the next morning, and you're like, I'm not really sure where this came from, but I can kind of sort of see how it fits in like narratively with everything else I was doing. Yeah, that's the amazing power of the unconscious. A story about the unconscious that I always think about. I was working air conditioning, commercial air conditioning for the Bass Hatchery. If you don't know what the Bass Hatchery is, this is where they basically store and breed lots of fish. And this is a kind of an unusual application of air conditioning systems because technically it was chillers, and chillers are generally used for air conditioning purposes. Um, but this was a chiller used in a very particular way to cool water, rapidly cool water that fish occupy. And in rapidly cooling the water, it activates the fish's self-preservation instinct. They think they're going to die, and just like I do when I think I'm going to die, I start fucking. So apparently, by stimulating this survival instinct in the fish, immediately they all want to start breeding. So this is a way of like compelling fish to breed by using the air conditioning system. Well, I was upstairs in sort of like a trophy fish sort of like museum area of this bass hatchery, and out of nowhere it just comes to me, "Don't worry, be happy." I just start singing it in the elevator, and my coworker's like, "Where's that coming from?" Like, I'm not sure. Let me think about it. And I'm like, "Wait a minute. You know those animatronic fish that go on the walls? You know those? It's like a little animatronic fish that goes on the wall and it starts like singing like songs at you. Well, so many of those like animatronic fish on the walls, they play that song "Don't Worry, Be Happy" by Bobby McFerrin. So this is the unconscious at work, right? I didn't consciously think to myself, okay, animatronic bass on the wall. I'm at the bass hatchery. All these trophy fish in this museum. Let me sing Bobby McFerrin. It all came together like completely unconsciously. It's funny that way. Same thing with a lot of my videos, you know. When I get to speaking, it's kind of just what comes to me. But I find that when I revisit the videos after I make them, there's a lot of sort of like convergent, connected narrative threads that it really ties all together. Well, in this video, I can already see kind of how it's coming together. Uh, the topic is motion. I think I want to start from here. is when I think motion as it comes to planets, of course the sun is this force that's organizing and directing the planets. But when I think speed, I don't even necessarily think of the fastest planet. I don't necessarily think of Mercury, and I don't necessarily think of the moon either. I actually think of Mars. A lot of astrologers have compared Saturn to like the brakes and Mars to like the accelerator. Um, Intemperately hot and dry is how Mars is described. Intemperately fiery, and so it's like fiery to the extreme. So Mars has this tendency to want action, like let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. Definitely, if you think about like what is a sign that wants things done quick, 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 and I think Aries. It's just like the quintessential sign of Mars in my eyes. Um, and it's all about getting something moving. So that is kind of a quality of air signs that's oppositional to fire signs. Um, Air signs are very indecisive. Their whole thing is that they want to explore possibilities. But that tendency to want to explore possibilities and to weigh options is what causes analysis paralysis, cold feet. I think we especially get that with sort of like Aquarius and Libra. Libra, notorious for its indecisiveness. Really, all of the air signs notorious for their indecisiveness. But fire signs are the opposite in that let's not just sit here and dwell about all the possibilities. It's better to have at least something moving, at least something going, than to just sit here and be twiddling our thumbs thinking about all the different possibilities. It's good to have something at least going. So this is, if we take that fiery element and we make it extreme and intemperate, that's what Mars is. It's like let's move, let's go, go, go. Let's be doing something. So it has a lot to do with motion. And Pluto, of course, is the higher octave of Mars. And so it's interesting. Whenever I think about the one, that in like Neoplatonic terms, the one, I think of Neptune. But I definitely view the planets and the order of the planets as having something to say about the path of the emanation of the one, right? So the very interesting thing to me that I think about all the time is how Pluto precedes Neptune. Whenever I think of Neptune, I think of like this sort of tabula rasa, clean slate, sort of blank slate sort of consciousness that has no qualities or properties, and it's all comes together like droplets of water in the ocean. They all come together as one thing. Let me take a drink of water here. I love water. Yeah, there's no separations. It really is just sort of consciousness devoid of any sort of sense of separation or direction. So there is no directions with Neptune. So I think of that as kind of like the housing place of just pure consciousness and possibility. So to me, it relates a lot Neoplatonically to the one. And yet, in the path of emanation, Pluto precedes it. When I think of Pluto, I I think a little bit of about Mars sometimes, about motion, about this progression. So it's like the thing that compels things to move in the progression that is evolution precedes even the consciousness, which is the really interesting part. Like the Neptune, this housing place of pure non-dual I am consciousness is preceded by just this force that insists upon motion towards evolution. So the story begins not even with consciousness. I think it's this part of why I associate Pluto with emptiness, um, is that it doesn't begin with consciousness. It's this state of emptiness, which then begets consciousness. Consciousness comes after, but the motion comes first. Um, and another thing I think about too is there is an association of bravery with Mars. Really, that is kind of the one big planet I associate with bravery. The other one, of course, would be the sun, but more than, well, I guess one thing about the Mars is it can go a little bit beyond bravery into foolhardiness, right? Everything about Mars is extreme, taking things too far. So Mars can extend to foolhardiness, but certainly if I wanted to give somebody, if I had somebody come to me and they're a coward and I had to give them an astrological talisman, I would give them a Mars talisman for bravery. And yeah, the bravery to throw yourself into a challenging and conflicting situation is what Mars is all about. Well, also, there is something so brave about exiting the piece of emptiness into penetrating into the darkness, right? So we're coming from the non-dual light of source, right? And we're all unified as one and in a state of emptiness and non-quality and even non-consciousness. But there is sort of this implicit sort of cosmic bravery that compels non-existence into existence, and particularly into making the plunge outward into darkness. And in moving out into darkness, we experience fragmentation. And that's a very scary thing for a lot of reasons. Scary because it's this very fragmentation that's the result of this plunge into darkness that results in everything we know as negative experience, but not just negative experience, also positive experience. And I think that's maybe the most offensive thing about this world that we call a prison planet or a hell realm, is not that there are negative things, because always if there are to be distinctions, there must be positive and negative. But I think the most offensive thing is how some people have negative fortunes and some people have positive fortunes. It's just this immediate, point blank, visceral reaction of injustice, sense of injustice about the world, right? There's one person who's on an island who I think Epstein's Island is like the perfect example. Like here we have this billionaire who has everything he could ever want. He lives in abject luxury. He lives the charmed life. And in his basement are these children snatched away from their parents, sexually traumatized, probably being psychologically tortured on purpose to extract adrenochrome from them, just experiencing like maximum trauma and torture. Meanwhile, this billionaire is up there having the time of his life, and he's the one doing it. He's the one creating all this torture. That is, in a very immediate sense, very revolting and offensive. It's the kind of thing that makes a lot of people not believe in spiritual things at all, because a lot of people's sort of linchpin of spirituality is what we'd call God, and a lot of people see how appalling this world is, and they say there's no way in which a God could possibly be affiliated with that. I think it's a very big misconstrual of the role of God, and what this world is supposed to be. I don't think this world is supposed to be an expression of
the deepest core of what God is. In fact, I think this world is meant to be sort of like a preview of what um, distance from God is, and I think that's basically literally what we are experiencing. But really, if you think about it, um, we all come from the one. You know, ask yourself the question: Do you believe? Do you really believe that we are all one consciousness, or is it just a talking point? And if you believe that, I keep playing the game here. I want to have footage for the video. If you believe that, then really you kind of have to believe that there are points of divergence and convergence where we separate from the one and come back into it. And also, there has to be a movement, there has to be motion, there has to be a progression from the one into fragmentation and then back. And really, that is that evolutionary journey. That is the Pluto. And that is basically what has come to sort of dissolve my sense of frustration with the injustice of the world because A, it really is the illusion of time, and the illusion of time really is like the uh, the initial disgrace, right? We talk about Saturn is associated with a disgrace. This illusion of time is really what makes existence so disgraceful. Sorry, I ate hot wings. I gotta go. Well, you know. So I'm gonna be right back. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire. It is kind of funny that I'm talking so much about Mars in this video, and hot wings do what hot wings will do. But I think where I was is, yeah, there is this progression from the unified, non dual source, the one, into the darkness, the plunge into darkness I associate with Pluto, first and foremost, right? I think it's kind of what Pluto is all about, plunging into some kind of darkness. Maybe it's inner darkness. Maybe you're plunging into somebody else's darkness. Maybe you're plunging into a dark topic, deep diving, um, penetrating and uprooting, penetrating and discovering deep hidden things. All very Pluto. But in a most basic level, it is the progression to penetrate and plunge from the unified non-dual source into this darkness. Um, and it is funny that a planet that's responsible for doing that is also associated with evolution. It just goes to show that so much of what evolution is relies upon um, the experience of fragmentation, the progression into darkness. Um, but it's one of the things that, oh yeah, I think I left off at Saturn. Yeah, so Saturn is associated with disgrace, and that original disgrace is the illusion of time because you think to yourself, okay, well, surely, let me try to find the way to put this. A person has a terrible, torturous life, and another person who's a terrible person has an amazing life. That's just on its face the problem with the world, in my opinion. You know, if it was just the one having a negative experience and also a positive experience, what's the issue? Except this is why I asked earlier, do you believe that all is one consciousness, or is that just a talking point? You know, because it's easy to say things, and it's another for it to be as so fundamental to your being that all of the necessary, you know, downstream implications of that are extremely familiar to you. So I think about a YouTuber who I pick on constantly, who is Pete Sapper, um, formerly the Chosen 144. I haven't checked him out in a while, and and he'll talk about how we are all one, and we are all that one source, creator, being, or whatever he says. And he also speaks of the the injustices of the world, and leaves me asking the question: well, if you understand that there is only one consciousness, then you also understand that there can be no injustice, because injustice, in some sense, implies inequality, and inequality implies duality and divisions. But if all is one consciousness and it's all one non dual consciousness, then all divisions are illusory and time itself is illusory. So, in a sense, it all kind of works out. I think for me, astrology was the biggest clue about that, because you can just look at how beautifully harmonious and perfect astrology is. There's um, a greater and a lesser malefic and a greater and a lesser benefic. Like, what more do we have to say? And their powers are basically equal, right? Mars is about as powerful as Venus. Saturn is about as powerful as Jupiter. You know, look at that, observe that brilliant and perfect balance. It literally is just the positive and negative aspects of a non dual source divided perfectly. And each sign it rules gets equal airtime. You know, Jupiter rules Sagittarius and it gets 30 degrees, and Saturn rules Capricorn, it's 30 degrees. You know, Aries gets 30 degrees, ruled by Mars. Libra, ruled by Venus, gets 30 degrees. You know, and just observe that perfect, brilliant design. And that is the power and the beauty of the Logos Pragmaticos, which I talk about all the time. And I think you only need to look at astrology to see the brilliant, perfect design of God. By the way, when I speak of God, I don't really necessarily speak in Christian terms. In fact, these past couple of months, I would say my tentative consideration and respect for Christianity has diminished a lot. The more I've thought things through, and the more certain information has come to me. Um, but yeah, everything God touches, which is everything, is touched by this perfect and brilliant design. It's only the illusion of separation of time, which is that initial disgrace of Saturn, that makes it seem as if reality is a cacophony. Because ultimately, if you really think about it, there is a progression from source into darkness and back to source. And in order for consciousness to make that journey, um, that consciousness needs to confront itself. This is, again, a very Pluto thing, right? Mars deals with confrontation. Pluto, being the higher octave of Mars, deals with self-confrontation. And Pluto digs up the things in your soul so you can face them. What is it digging up? In Indian terms, I believe the term is samskars. So in other words, you can act in accordance with this darkness that we have plunged ourselves into. You can act demonically, but the very root of all existence is Pluto. It's what allows this entire story to be told. And Pluto is a force that makes you face yourself. So, in other words, it's inevitable that the journey back to that non dual light origin entails you facing who you've been. It's inevitable. Um, Ultimately, it doesn't really work a lot how we think it does. A really great thing to look into is Dr. Michael Newton's work and some of his Michael Newton Institute students who've continued his practice that studied near death and not near death, but past life regressions. They do past life regression hypnosis therapy on people and between life regressions. And basically, almost all of his clients report that it's not karma in the sense of like you're harshly judged by some, you know what I mean, judge, jury, and executioner. You know, you don't go up and see Yahweh and he punishes you with fucking karma. Really, the interesting thing is that it seems that most so called karma is self chosen. In other words, um, there's a council of wise beings that everybody encounters between lives, and they gently point out how you fall short of the ideal of God, the God really being, in Neoplatonic terms, the one, fall short of perfection, let's say. And um, they have a point because really every action you take is reinforcing who you are. And who you are is, like I've said in many videos in the past, the sort of negativity you accrue, that wall of darkness, is the wall separating you from non-dual light of source. It is the wall separating you from God. And so that's why our karma is self-chosen. We, of our own volition, recognize, thanks to the advice of our council, that um, who we've been and the actions we've taken have given us some baggage, some energetic baggage that is a wall blocking us, as an anchor that is holding us down from flying into the source. Because when you die and you see this light, it's so beautiful that you want to fly into it, but you're anchored by your own imperfections. Not to forget that the one is um, perfect, contains all perfection. So, yeah, um, that initial conversation with a Plutonian force is what insists upon us choosing the challenges that we do in this life. And it's informed by our past lives and the baggage that we've picked up in those lives. Well, every time that you act in a way devoid of grace, in a way that is unsightly and terrible, you know, all you're doing is just putting another thing in front of you that you have to face about yourself. And you're going to face it. What Pluto does is it puts it in front of you. You remember when I said, like, the universe has a tendency to hold up a mirror and you got to face it? Like, that's how it works. Very often it's in the form of another person. Um, so yeah, that is sort of the motion, you know? That there appears to be inequality, there appears to be injustice, but this is just that Saturnian illusion of time, because really, there is this motion from source back to source, in and out. And as a result of that progression, um, everything will converge back into one because Pluto is the great journey inward. And um, at the root of your being is emptiness. But before emptiness, it's non dual unity. It is that one consciousness. The one is within you. very deeply. You have to dive to find this, but only Pluto could dive so deep. And that is the point that all the tethers converge. That is the point at which we all converge. And so the same plunge inward to face your so-called karma, who you've been, is the same plunge that's directing you towards unity and the oneness, bringing you back to the one. It's through your karma and through your own darkness that you've chosen to face piecemeal over multiple lifetimes. So, yeah, that is a realistic mechanic of how really the world works. And it's been really soothing to me to realize that. Um, in other news, uh, in the past couple of months, I've become a little bit more worldly. I've been enjoying a respite and, you know what I mean, a sanctuary, an oasis away from my karmic trials. And I made a Space Hay account. It's like a MySpace account. And, you know, I've been meeting people and I've been being social. And it's been really nice. And everybody's really nice on there. You know, I've been doing semen retention. I'm on like, I don't really count the days, but I'm a couple months into semen retention. And my luck has greatly improved. Um, and I've applied some astrological rules. You know, electional astrology is a very complex and rich science full of many calculations you can do to ensure positive, enjoyable outcomes. Um, Even optimized outcomes, like you can make yourself rich using electional astrology, and you can pick the very, very best times to begin certain ventures. But there's a really cheap and dirty um, form of astrological timing that you can use on a daily basis. I mainly follow the moon and Venus, and I mainly just time things such that the moon is not in Capricorn, Scorpio, or Aries if I'm trying to build something with people. And I try to make sure that the moon isn't applying to conjoin, square, or oppose Mars or Saturn. I give about an 8 degree leeway there, right? 8 degrees applying means don't do it. And yeah, this has been a way that I've greatly improved my luck with people. My luck with conversations is just this really simple electional timing using the moon. And also Venus. With Venus, the comparable signs are again Aries and Scorpio because Venus is in detriment there, but also Venus in Virgo, not so very good because it's in fall. And yeah. Funny enough, I make this video on a Saturday, and isn't Saturday like just like the greatest day ever? You know, it's the one day you're looking forward to. It's not, you don't have work tomorrow. You only have some fun activity to look forward to. You just wake up and you know that you just have a free day. But and yeah, it's Saturday. It's Saturn's day. um, so yeah, it's kind of funny, like the function of a Saturday, or Saturnic times, because really I make this video during a very Saturnian time when the moon is applying to conjoin retrograde Saturn. I think by about now it will be within the same degree. And Saturn, where Mars and martial signs, like I think like if the moon is in Aries or Scorpio, I think those are great times to just grind it out and not really be talking to people, just working really hard on something and having breakthroughs, right? Whenever I think of Aries and Scorpio, I think of breakthroughs. When I think of Mars and Pluto, I think of breakthroughs. Like you're breaking through some obstacle, and you're just grinding. But the Saturn element, the Capricorn, and the Saturn aspects, I really think of as being associated with reflection, you know, Saturn has to do with limitation. It's the opposite, really, of breakthroughs. Um, it's kind of like being powerless to stop something. You can kind of almost see it in the qualities of the square aspect and the opposition. The square is like the square is of martial nature in traditional astrology. So it's showing you like there's some challenges here, but you can push your way through if you work hard enough. The opposition has more of this quality of like, yeah, you better just learn to deal with not having this, you know, because the opposition's of the nature of Saturn. Um, and yeah, so Saturn is the wisdom derived in things falling apart. And so whenever the moon is in Capricorn or the moon is applying to form a conjunction square or opposition with Saturn, I think of that as times to just sit back and reflect on things. And I find that my most profound thoughts come from these times because Saturn rules all esoteric sciences and profound musings. Um, yeah, yeah, it is just one of those funny quirks is that the sun is what brings light to things, and yet Saturn is the dragon hiding all the gold, right? The dragon protecting the treasure, and some of my biggest treasures have been from Saturn. It's just one of its many paradoxical natures, right? Saturn rules all the things that are worthless. Or Saturn rules garbage men. Saturn rules lead, you know, just base worthless things, you know. Whereas a solar incense would be saffron, which costs like friggin' $20. Saturn's incense is like pine, that just literally pine and bark. Think of pine bark, dude. Like you just go like, oh, this shit's fucking everywhere. Let me just get some pine cones and burn that. You know, it's just entirely common, and yet the greatest jewels are all Saturnian. Um, so yeah, I think that there's another motion theme too. Is that uh, the these times of moon applying to these malefics and everything of the malefics, Mars and Saturn, I think of hard work. You know, Saturn and Mars are about having a hard life and learning that you need to put in hard work in some form or fashion to get ahead. And so during these times that are martial and Saturnian, and when the moon and Venus are particularly afflicted in these ways, either by debility or malefic aspect, um, I find these are great times to withdraw from people and to either work really hard on something and to reflect. And in that way, you're in motion and you're making positive motion in life. And I think this kind of ties into the theme of why I've been stepping away from the channel a little bit. Is I never want to be that person who just makes a video every day like some fucking guru. Like, trust me, you're not. You want to. People should really learn the habit of let's do 20 parts hard work silently to one part. Let me make a video. Like on YouTube now, everyone's a fucking guru. Like a bunch of damn teenagers are telling me what's what. Not that teenagers can't be wise, but um, yeah, it's just people not putting in the work necessarily, and then they just want to pump out video after video after video. So yeah, that's going to be a pattern for my channel moving forward. Basically, is you can expect a lot of text posts because not everything warrants making a video. Generally, this channel has been a way for me to process the extreme trauma and challenges that, as a chosen one, I've endured, talk it out, make sense of it, share the epiphanies that are usually roughly contemporaneous with those times. But I've been having really good luck and really positive times lately, so I haven't really had anything that constitutes making a video. But I wanted to touch base and make a video. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of this video. And ta-ta for now.